Let's go over 7 truths about C1. As I do a series of videos on C1, I'm looking to educate you so that you understand there's so much benefit to addressing this area of your body, but there are things that we need to understand. So let's cover these 7 truths. Now, the first one that we're going to go over is that it can be misaligned. The reason is because there's so much mobility of the C1 vertebra on C2 that there can be deviations. Some people have opinions that maybe things do not deviate as we once thought. However, C1 is very unique and C1 can be misaligned. Okay? Number 2, C1 can affect your vagus nerve. Anatomically, the vagus nerve that feeds internal structures, addresses your parasympathetic system, it lies directly in front of the C1 vertebrae. So if that C1 vertebra deviates, it can negatively influence that vagus nerve. Commonly, the most biggest symptom that I see associated with that is sympathetic dominance. So what does that mean? That means that your nervous system gets ramped up. That means your foot is basically on the gas pedal of your body permanently. We can't sustain that. So that is that revved up feeling. That's where we get into the fatigue. So remembering that it can affect your vagus nerve, that is important for us to address. The third truth that we need to cover is that it can be the root cause of your symptoms. On the last video when I talked about the C1, I commented that it can have an influence on the neurological structures or nerve structures in that area. So of course, if you're affecting a nerve structure, that nerve will travel to a location and can cause some of your symptoms, okay? The fourth truth that we need to go over is that it can inhibit muscles, causing muscular instability in the body. Yes, because if we have nerves that are negatively influenced, we know that that impairment can then inhibit those muscles, right? So it can inhibit the muscles, creating a form of weakness, but you know, I like to be very particular. So the C1 can inhibit many muscles in the body. That is what I teach in my courses, is how many of these muscles, what muscles specifically are affected. For the case of what we're talking about right now, just know that it has the ability to inhibit a few very important muscles or a large list of muscles, and then causing joints to be then less stable, and that's what we call muscular instability. The fifth truth is that a C1 issue, often in the form of a C1 misalignment, can sap your vitality. I have lived it. I can tell you, when that is an issue, you will just feel like you are not thriving. You are just not your true self. Sometimes people convey to me that they kind of feel like they've lost themselves. That is a huge truth, that you can feel like your vitality has been sapped. Number 6, it can have similar symptoms to upper cervical instability. And this is very important because I had people come to me swearing up and down that they have upper cervical instability, and strangely enough, 2-3 adjustments, they're holding. Well, what is the difference between upper cervical instability and a C1 misalignment? And that's just sustainability of the treatment. Both of them have an influence on nerve structures, but in this case, up here, you can hold the treatments and corrections, where in upper cervical instability you cannot. But the symptoms can be very, very similar. And the last thing we're going to go over is, and this is a huge truth, that we cannot out-treat or out-roll a C1 misalignment. This is why people often find their way into my office, because they are trying other things that are not working. And now, if you know my opinion, and that is collaboration is very important. I am never against any other strategies, but what I am all for is an order. And you know my order if you've watched my videos. That is nerve, muscles, ligaments, joints. Nerve, muscles, ligaments, joints. That's because I am a nerve-focused practitioner, and the C1 influences the nerves. So if we are seeing a muscular symptom and that we are trying to treat, with some type of massage or rolling or anything and it is not responding, then we want to look at the C1 misalignment because of that lack of responsiveness. And that's why I often tell people, remember, if you're rolling at home and it is not working, that is because you cannot out-treat or out-roll a C1 misalignment. We are going to have to check that out.